Gamification of language learning. When we engage in what we are naturally suited to do, our work takes on the quality of play, and it is play that stimulates creativity. Said by Linda Neyman. In the present technological era, many of us like to spend time on various electronic gadgets, especially mobile phones. You come across students spending a lot of time with mobile phones, visiting social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp, browsing videos on YouTube, or playing games. Before you understand the concept of gamification, let us answer the questions from the Think box. The first question is, what games do the students like to play on the mobile phone? And the second question is, why do they like playing such games? The answer to the first question will have a long list of mobile games like the Candy Crush Soda Saga, Angry Birds, PUBG, Ludo King, and so on. If you ask the students who play such games, they might give several reasons like their excitement about playing the game, their competitive nature of reaching from one level to another, their curiosity about solving the problem at each level, their engagement with the virtual world. As a language teacher, if you evaluate these reasons, you may conclude that they spend maximum time doing unproductive and cognitively challenging non-academic tasks. The idea of such cognitively challenging games can be utilized in the language classroom through a digital platform. That is where the concept of gamification comes into existence. Nick Pelling first coined the term gamification in 2002, but it got popularity in 2010 when people started using the internet more and more. There are several definitions of gamification, one of them being the use of game elements and game design techniques in non-game contexts, given by Verbach and Hunter in 2012. It deals with the two clusters of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which are necessary for the second language learning experience. This indicates that one of the crucial effective factors of learning, that is motivation, plays an important role in the gamification of language learning. This makes us ponder how the principle of face-to-face classroom language games differs from gamification of language learning. The differences are discussed in the next section. Gamification versus game-based learning. In a face-to-face language classroom, games are used as one of the effective teaching strategies. This strategy can be applied to both offline as well as online learning games, as it encourages and motivates the learners and involves them in the learning process unknowingly and incidentally. Usually, teachers find the concepts of gamification and game-based learning similar, but they have different approaches. Game-based learning is about using specific learning objectives of education to achieve a measurable learning outcome through playing games. This learning experience makes the learners participate within a game framework of a real-life situation, where playing a game becomes an integral part of the lesson. Usually, in face-to-face classrooms, the games are played with real people, which encourages and motivates the students for learning and helps them reach their learning goals in a fun environment. Sometimes, the games which are used in the classroom may not be cognitively challenging or suitable for high proficiency learners, so they might lose interest and intrinsic motivation for learning. At times, their classmates boost their extrinsic motivation and inspire them to participate in the game actively. Depending on the availability of the resources and the authentic situation, the teacher may adopt, adapt, or create the games, and usually the mode of conducting games is face-to-face using real objects or teaching resources. Whereas gamification is a process of using game elements in a non-game, digital, or virtual environment to make learning an active and engaging experience. To experience such learning, the learners should use electronic devices like mobile phones or laptops, either online or offline. In a way, it is a device mediated technique in which animated characters engage the learners in the process of learning. Using this process, you can promote or design the entire course for the learners. As mentioned earlier, the students love spending time with mobile. It can act as a good remediation tool for the learners to work individually and achieve higher levels of learning engagement. It makes them work independently as it promotes both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. For example, a parent never asks a kid to play video games or mobile games because they are so addicted to the animated world that they can automatically switch to game mode from real life communication anytime. In addition, such learning never restricts the learners from learning a topic at a specific time or location or waiting for the results or feedback from the teacher. Gamification of learning provides opportunities to practice formal learning in flexible learning environments. The learners can choose a variety of games to understand the same topic, and they can find various ways to achieve the course objectives. In addition, gamification of learning can happen in both synchronous and asynchronous learning modes. To be precise, gamification is playing a game using an electronic device, either online or offline, providing a virtual environment for the students and not limited by physical space. Whereas game based learning is a real life experience of playing games in an authentic real world situation. There are several frameworks and methods of distinguishing these two concepts. In this module, the inclusion of these two concepts solely depends on face to face games versus digital games. After understanding the difference between game based and gamification of language learning, now it's time to reflect on the following question: what are the reasons for the popularity of digital games in formal education? The use of mobile phones in formal education is rapidly increasing, especially after the pandemic. It can be for online teaching, sharing learning materials, assessing tasks and assignments, evaluating, or providing feedback to the learners. When it comes to Indian formal education, as stated in the National Education Policy 2020, there is a lot of emphasis on the integration of technology in teaching, learning, and assessment. The policy identifies and highlights the need for integrating technology as a strategy for engaging learners effectively. It also recommends the need for individual attention for each learner. In a way, NEP expects educational institutions to incorporate personalized adaptive learning, which is achievable if game based situations are created for the children. You can track their learning and give instant and immediate feedback, and accordingly, you can give remedial classes. The policy also discusses having digital repositories of e-contents and e-courses, and again it talks about learning games, simulations, and even augmented reality, virtual reality, and virtual labs. Overall, achieving 21st century skills requires cooperation, collaboration, critical thinking, creative thinking, and problem solving. It can be made possible if teachers and students become the co creators of these resources so that they create, learn, unlearn, and relearn certain concepts or ideas using technology. And one of the effective ways of doing that is the incorporation of digital games in education for teaching, learning, and assessment. Benefits of gamification in language learning. There are several benefits of using gamification in language learning. A few important benefits have been discussed below. The first one: engagement and motivation. Gamification makes learning extremely engaging and involves the learners in all the tasks that they are asked to undertake. Retention. The use of animation or visuals makes the learners process the information and retain the information for a long time. Individual feedback. As gamification works on a game element, the learners get instant and immediate feedback on their learning and are able to track their progress. Attempts. Gamification believes in encouraging the learners in attempting the same task several times if they do not fulfill or succeed in the initial attempt. There is hardly any disappointment or failure in learning concepts. Practice. There are two levels of practice intended in the gamification of learning. One, while the learners do not reach the next level or task, and the second is the curiosity of playing the same level or task. This makes them learn or practice the same concept incidentally or unconsciously. Collaboration. Although gamification of language learning attempts at individual progress through the virtual environment, it also promotes collaboration between individuals or groups through online mode.